Welcome to Unit 9, Civil War and Reconstruction, Lesson 1, Slavery and Racism. Enslaved people in the South thought running away from their plantations would change their lives for the better. But would freedom in the North live up to its promise? African Americans in the South. While some Americans began to harbor misgivings over slavery, the slave trade continued to thrive in the South. Enslaved people from Africa were no longer imported, but since the children of enslaved people in the United States also became slaves, the slave population grew steadily in the South. By 1860, there were nearly 4 million enslaved African Americans in the region. Racism, or the belief that one race is superior to others, was the foundation upon slavery was built. Many slave owners justified slavery by claiming that African Americans were better off under the care of plantation owners than they would be caring for themselves. But, as you know, many slaves endured lives of unspeakable cruelty. Laws such as the Fugitive Slave Acts made sure their lives could never improve by sharply curbing their freedom and economic opportunities. Racist attitudes also affected the lives of more than 250,000 free African Americans in the South. Local laws prevented them from traveling or assembling in large groups. Free African Americans were also discouraged from organizing churches, schools, and fraternal orders or social organizations like the Masons. Slavery was central to the economy and culture of the agrarian South. Concerned about the health of the South's economy, Southern leaders not only fought for slavery, but they also battled against tariffs. They argued that high tariffs favored the industrial North and hurt the South by forcing plantation owners to pay higher prices for manufactured goods. Some wealthy plantation owners even tried to convince the United States government to acquire Cuba from Spain as a slave state. Their proposal was presented at the 1854 Austin Manifesto and included the provision that the island be taken by force if necessary. The manifesto fell through, but became a rallying cry for Northern abolitionists. African Americans in the North. Though some enslaved people dreamed of escaping to the North, those who succeeded found themselves facing many of the challenges they thought they'd had left behind. Many Northerners held the same racist beliefs that were common among Southerners. They did not want to live near, work with, or have their children go to school with African Americans. They cared little about ending slavery and looked upon free African Americans with scorn. Even as they worked to try to end the institution of slavery, some abolitionists held racist attitudes toward African Americans. Discrimination took several forms. Some states passed laws restricting the rights of African Americans to vote, own property, and move about freely. Segregation, or the separation of people by race, was common in northern cities, and African Americans often were forbidden from entering white churches, schools, and many other buildings. They were often blocked from employment for skilled jobs. Daily threats included attacks by white mobs and the possibility of being captured and sent back to a life of slavery. The impact of slavery. The damage done to people by slavery is evident in these two photos. The man on the left, photographed in 1863, is scarred from being whipped, and fear is evident in the faces of the children on the right. A writer named Harriet Beecher Stowe channeled her anger over slavery into a novel called Uncle Tom's Cabin. This 1852 painting, called An American Slave Market by an artist known only as Taylor, depicts a scene in the novel in which a slave trader purchases a child. Published in 1852, Uncle Tom's Cabin sold 300,000 copies in that year alone, and was also turned into a popular plays. It dramatically changed the national debate over slavery and racism. Now here's a quick video of more information about Uncle Tom's Cabin.
When Uncle Tom's Cabin was published in 1852, the anti-slavery novel flew off the shelves. 17 printing presses ran 24 hours a day to keep up with the demand, making it the best-selling novel of the 19th century.
The book struck at our emotions as a nation, and it made us see ourselves. It was our emotional mirror, and it prompted some individuals to rethink how they thought of slavery.
Uncle Tom's Cabin has been cited as a factor leading to the Civil War. When Abraham Lincoln later met the author, Harriet Beecher Stowe, he reportedly said, "So you're the little woman who wrote the book that started this great war." In 1852, the backlash was immediate and powerful.
In the South, the book was banned. And if you were caught selling the book, you were either going to be killed or thrown in prison. There was tremendous fear that this book would make a difference.
It did by portraying Uncle Tom as a dignified, intelligent, God-fearing man. In the South, however, traveling Tom shows became popular, depicting him as a submissive buffoon, happy in his enslaved condition, a stereotype that still exists today.
Just a quick review before we end this video. Racism and slavery were defining forces in the lives of African Americans in both the South and the North. The novel Uncle Tom's Cabin changed the national debate over slavery and racism. Racism is the belief that one race is superior to others. Segregation is the separation of people based on race. That's all for today's video.